On the day after Christmas, 1900, a relief ship arrived at a remote lighthouse off the coast of Scotland. No flag was flying. No one came out to greet them. The crew fired a flare into the sky and sounded the ship's horn. Nothing. A lone keeper rowed ashore and climbed 160 steps to the lighthouse door. Inside, he found the table set for a meal that was never eaten. A chair knocked over, the clock stopped, and no sign, anywhere, of the three men who were supposed to be there. They were never seen again. The Flannan Isles sit in the Outer Hebrides, off the rugged west coast of Scotland, a cluster of small, windswept islands so remote that even local sheep herders refuse to spend the night there, citing old stories of ghosts and strange happenings on the rocks. In 1899, a lighthouse was completed on the tallest of these islands, Island Moor, designed to warn ships away from the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic. Every piece of material used to build it had to be hauled up a 148-foot cliff by hand. 3 keepers were assigned to maintain the light. James Ducat, the principal keeper, an experienced lighthouse man with a wife and 4 children. Thomas Marshall, his assistant, and Donald MacArthur, filling in temporarily for a 4th keeper who was out sick. Their job was simple, repetitive, and essential. Keep the light burning every night, without fail, until one night it didn't. On the night of December 15th, 1900, a steamship called the Archer was passing the Flannan Isles on its way from Philadelphia to Scotland. The crew noted something in the ship's log. The lighthouse was dark, in the middle of a storm, with no light guiding ships away from the rocks. The ship didn't dock until 3 days later, on December 18th, and only then was the sighting reported to the Northern Lighthouse Board. Even then, the relief ship meant to check on the keepers, the Hesperus, couldn't sail right away. The weather was too severe. It wasn't until December 26th, 11 days after the light first went dark, that the Hesperus finally reached the island. As the ship approached, the crew raised a signal flag. No response. They fired a flare into the sky. Still nothing. Relief keeper Joseph Moore rowed ashore alone and began the long climb up to the lighthouse. The entrance gate was closed. The main door was shut. Inside, the scene looked like the men had simply vanished mid-task. The beds were unmade. The kitchen clock had stopped. A chair lay toppled on its side. On the table sat the remains of an unfinished meal, as if whoever had been eating it had gotten up and never come back. Outside, in the hallway, Moore found a single set of oilskins, the heavy waterproof coats the keepers wore in bad weather, still hanging on its hook, which meant whoever had left the lighthouse that day had gone out without it, into what records show was a violent storm. The logbook was in order, with entries for the days leading up to the disappearance, including detailed weather readings. But the final entries simply stopped on December 13th, 2 days before the Archer reported the dark light. Notes for the 15th had been jotted down on a slate, ready to be copied into the official log, but never were. The only living thing in the entire lighthouse was a canary, still in its cage in the kitchen. The 3 keepers were gone. No bodies, no struggle, no clear answer. Robert Muirhead, the superintendent of the Northern Lighthouse Board, personally knew all 3 missing men. He'd recruited them himself. He arrived to investigate days later. What he found at the Western Landing painted a grim picture. A storage box, anchored 110 feet above sea level, had been smashed open, its contents scattered. Iron railings were bent. A section of railway track had been wrenched clean out of its concrete base, and a boulder weighing over a ton had reportedly been displaced. Muirhead's official conclusion: two of the keepers, Ducat and Marshall, had gone out to secure equipment during the storm and were swept off the cliffs by an enormous rogue wave. When they didn't return, MacArthur, the only one who'd left his oilskins behind, suggesting he went out in a hurry without stopping to grab them, went to look for them and was lost the same way. It's a plausible theory. Rogue waves at that landing were a known danger. One of the keepers had previously been fined for losing equipment in a past storm, which may explain why they'd have risked going out despite the conditions. But it doesn't explain everything. Why was the table set for a meal that was never eaten if the men had gone out hours earlier, during daylight, to fix storm damage? Why did the final log entry stop on the 13th, 2 full days before the light reportedly went dark? In the absence of clean answers, the story took on a life of its own. Newspapers at the time ran increasingly wild theories: that a sea serpent had pulled the men from the rocks, that they'd staged their own disappearance to start new lives elsewhere, that foreign spies had taken them. Locally, some blamed something called the Phantom of the Seven Hunters, old maritime folklore tied to the islands long before the lighthouse was ever built. The most enduring rumour involved a supposed second logbook, allegedly written by Marshall, with chilling entries describing the keeper's final days. That the storm was the worst any of them had ever experienced. That Ducat had gone strangely quiet. That MacArthur, known to be a tough, even-tempered man, had broken down crying. The last entry reportedly read, "Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." It's a haunting detail. It also appears to be completely fabricated. Years later, a journalist investigating the case found no evidence this second logbook ever existed. It was very likely invented to make the story even more dramatic than it already was, as if it needed the help. There are 2 other theories that don't involve the supernatural at all. One suggests a violent argument broke out at the Western Landing. MacArthur had a reputation for a short temper, and the fight ended with all 3 men going over the cliff edge. A darker version suggests MacArthur alone killed the other 2 before taking his own life by jumping. No evidence has ever supported either of these theories, but the not knowing is exactly what's kept this story alive for over 120 years. To this day, the most likely explanation remains the simplest one. 3 men, doing a dangerous job in a dangerous place, lost to a wave nobody saw coming. But the eerie scene Joseph Moore walked into that day, the stopped clock, the toppled chair, the meal no one finished, has never fully faded from memory. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse still stands today, fully automated, requiring no keepers at all. Maybe that's for the best.